Welcome back to the Winner's Circle. I am here today with Omer from Revuze. This is a super interesting platform because, well, Omer will tell us all about it. He'll give us a little bit of history, but they're moving from kind of the SaaS world into this AI world and kind of rethinking their product a little bit, and have just won a big innovation award for their work this year. So this is super exciting, Omer. Welcome to the Winner's Circle. Why don't you give us a little bit of background about Revuze and your own background?
Hey, Russ, thanks for having me here. Hey, everybody. So my name is Omer Kehat, VP Product at Revuze. Been with Revuze for over 2 years now. And Revuze has been in the market for over a decade now, and we've been doing a lot of work with voice of the customer and really done a lot of innovative work in the past year, really leveraging AI to take our platform to the next level. We've been focusing a lot on consumer reviews and how they help brands really understand what customers love and don't love about their products and about products within the category. And this year, we've taken that to the next level and added additional data sources and really took AI to the limit in not only providing dashboards, but really providing actionable recommendations and insights so the brands can really take our platform and not just view dashboard and say, hey, that's interesting, but also understanding exactly what they need to do in order to drive the needle and make business decisions.
It's funny because you guys have turned, this amazing kind of this amazing platform into and evolving it into an AI platform. I want to step back just a second because the whole thing that you're doing, these reviews, your whole platform is all about reputation management, right? It's all about kind of understanding what's going on with your sales or your product usage. It's funny because I was literally was having that thought of most companies, if they just focused on improving their brand reputation, could probably get a 10% lift on revenue just by working on reputation alone. And so it's really cool what you guys are working on. So tell us a little bit about the kind of the history of the company and kind of, we don't need a full blown details of it,
Yeah.
but just kind of how did the idea start, and then kind of, where are we today?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting you talked about sales because if you think about a brand manager or somebody in marketing or sales, they open up their week and they're looking at last week's sales report and they're seeing things go up or down. But it's not just about what's going up or what's going down. They always ask themselves, why is something going up or why is something going down? And it's beyond those basic questions or basic answers about, hey, we put a discount, so we got more sales. It's like really what's driving this product and why are consumers so in love with it, or why are they hating it? And exactly like you said, like brand reputation at a very, very micro granular SKU level, and allowing you to really get that array of all of those products and really see what consumers are saying about them. And then when sales go up or down, you have that additional layer of what's happening and what's driving that. And I think that's really when Revuze was first founded, that was the premise, helping brands really uncover the why behind the what. Everybody can tell you what's happening, but it's really hard to say why things are happening. And I think what we found is that, well, we found two things probably over the past 2 years. One is that we can really enrich that answer and provide more about the why if we don't just focus on consumer reviews, if we also look at social data and we look at your customer support tickets and we look at what are people discussing on Reddit and other different data sources, which are really, really powerful and rich. And we also found that using AI can really cut a lot of the hard work that we had to do traditionally, because now we have these wonderful LLM engines that can really help us create summaries, recommendations, and call to actions based on that data. So I think those two vectors have been what we've been sort of really, really hyper focused on in the past year to really expand our platform and become much more powerful than just a SaaS dashboard. Now we've got a real actionable platform that customers can use.
Yeah, I remember I've had to manage reputation a couple of times in my career from a marketing and even HR perspective because it was so important. And it's a daily, weekly task. And what you're saying is exactly right, which is, we almost have this flood of data now. All these systems that we use and platforms that we use have all this data, and the good ones have really great interfaces on top that allow you to sort and cut and filter and generate reports and dashboards and all that stuff. But you're still working to analyze all that yourself or with your team to kind of put all those pieces together of what happened. What happened on Tuesday at 3:00 when our call volume spiked and sales tanked. you know, and you can see those obvious ones, but with AI, I'm finding more and more that it's like having an entire, you know, consultancy behind you now with that data.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I don't want to position our platform as a platform that will be creating unemployment in different areas
No,
across the organizations. We're really there to empower and enable those people to get to those, insights and get to those understandings much quicker. But also, what do I do with these insights, and how do I fix them, and how do I create new messaging in marketing that will now rectify the situation, or how do I emphasize my strong points, or even what do I need to do on the product side in order to improve? Because hey, maybe I just released a bad product that has some defects that I really need to take care of in order to gain that traction.
I have personally experienced a bad software release on the home audio side, and if you're a fan of the home audio side, you know what platform I'm talking about. They released software that just wasn't ready, and boy, did they hear about it. You know, it was very vocal across social channels, as you said. You know, I'm sure their support channels were blowing up. And it's at that point you're like, oh my God, what do I do? And you know, the voice of the customer really is the only thing that matters. And you know, they spend with their wallet, but they come back. You know, that's when, especially in the B2B world where I've grown up, you know, that it's all about loyalty. It's all about
Yeah,
month 2 through 12, or usually it's
exactly.
about month 33 through 36.
Yeah.
That's where your profit is, right? So it's, you know, you really do have to lean into all these conversations.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, which is, surprising me day in, day out, that we still talk to, different prospects that don't have their own voice of the customer platform, or, they had a social solution and they took it out a year back because it just gave them a lot of noise, or they couldn't cut through the noise and really understand what to take action. And it boggles my mind that there are so many brands that are still not in that understanding that how critical voice of the customer is to your reputation, and how critical it can be in helping your brand grow or taking it down if you're doing the wrong things. And this is exactly what we're trying to build a solution that's also at a very, I wouldn't say cheap, but definitely an affordable and aggressive pricing, because we believe that a lot of what we're doing, and there are a lot of these traditional players that will provide most of the customer and market research solutions, and there are a lot of, like, the big traditional agencies, if you think about Deloitte or McKinsey or such, and they'll also give you a very, very steep price point because they're throwing a lot of manpower and labor on that work. And what we believe that we have technology that really minimizes a lot of the hard work that would be done by analysts. And because our cost is so much cheaper, we can also provide the solution at a much more affordable price, which we believe is something that we really want to democratize voice of the customer to every brand out there in the world. Every brand should have something and a way to listen to their customers that's easy, and that's affordable, and it can really drive action. We believe that every brand can grow if they use such a solution.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I see it on our side of the house. We run a program called Best Places to Work, and it relies on employee survey data. And so the nominees run an employee survey to their employees. And having that data back, I say the same thing. It's like, if you win, great, but having that data alone is so worthwhile. I mean, it's under $1,000 to enter the nomination, and you may have a chance to win, which would be great. But the learning alone is where the real value is in that. And now, as you guys take AI into this, it's not dashboards. You're really building interfaces for kind of everybody or anybody, right?
Exactly, exactly. And by the way, we have, these urban legends about things that we found for our customers through our data. And one of the best stories that we like to say is about, we had this TV company that was one of our customers, and we found out that a lot of customers were complaining about the smell of the TV. And you think about, well, my TV doesn't smell, but apparently there was some processing unit at the back of the TV which would heat up at some point in time after a lot of usage, and would probably create some burning smell, or burning some
Toxicity.
unit. Yeah, and it would cause the TV to actually smell. And they would have never found that out if they had not read those reviews and been able to really analyze and understand that people are talking about the smell of their TV. So we have these handful of really, really amazing stories about what we were able to discover to customers. And back to your other point about having this at the hand of everybody in the organization. Traditionally, we were serving analysts or business analysts, people that live and die on data, and they're give them an Excel spreadsheet and they're happy. And
I
and I,
love them.
again, I'm such a person myself as well, so I can't really say too many bad things about them. But obviously, you think about their manager, you think about VP marketing, you even think about the CEO who just wants to ask a question: How is my brand doing? Or what's tell me what's happened in the past month. And building an interface, especially now that everybody's so used to just chatting and asking natural language questions, is exactly the direction that we're heading in thinking that yes, this should be at the sort of accessible to everyone in the organization, and that's why also we don't. And again, I'm not trying to sell our platform, but we don't charge by seats. We believe in unlimited seats, so that everybody in the organization really has access to this data.
Yeah, and I've seen that transform organization. Once the data is freed, it's transformative because, well, you find a lot of hidden stuff sometimes in a business once the data is free. But you also, you can look at it from your own perspective. And so that's always important. As a marketer, I looked at product data, sales data, that type of stuff. But we also spent a lot of time looking at voice of customer and looking for upsells and looking for loyalty and that type of stuff. And so that it really is, that reputation, whether it's voice of customer, employee satisfaction, whatever, for a business, if you're really not paying attention to that on a weekly, daily basis, especially in this day and age with Amazon reviews and everything else, it's going to be crazy. The one thing you said that's really kind of striking me now too is I'm spending a lot of time working on generative engine optimization. And, I spent a career learning about search engine optimization and getting our products found by Google mainly. And now we're working on the opposite side of, we're trying to make sure everybody in the world knows about it. And so we got to tell AI about these things. And so this is a whole new realm too. And, for your brand managers and your founders and your owners and your product people, your tool's got to be a gold mine just for being able to kind of consolidate this information in a single spot so that I don't have to go do all that searching.
Some features that we really
Hey, let's pause one sec, Omer. I
Sure.
lost your audio.
Oh, wait a second.
There we go. Now you're back. All right, let's start over. Go ahead.
It's been one of our latest releases, something that we've been probably working on over the past 6 or so months. Because we started hearing it from our customers. We started hearing from them, hey, we're losing traffic to our brand.com, or now that traffic is coming from Google, but it's also coming from other places, and especially thinking about the younger generation. Again, you talked about your sons. My oldest is 13. His best friend is ChatGPT, which is which is really, really mind-boggling. That's how they're used to, I grew up searching on Google. He's growing up searching on talking with ChatGPT. And that's going to be his main go-to when he's looking for his next, pair of shoes, or he's looking for his, next Xbox game to purchase or whatever. And we heard that from our customers. We even saw these new sort of personas being introduced in new roles about, generative engine optimization, and what does it mean, and how do I go about it? And we immediately felt that if you're talking about voice of the customer, you have to start looking at that track as well. And how do you consolidate that data, and how do you add it as well?
Well, and what's interesting is from a reputation standpoint, when we were managing reputation for Google, you would largely combat it. You would, try to get a better review on top, so that, or 5, so that the bad review kind of went down. And you would ask for good reviews all the time, and you would, so you did things to kind of manage reputation. But now it's so easy to find the bad reviews, right? I mean, you can go find the bad reviews in 2 seconds. And with AI consolidates all that and gives them, a feedback based on whatever information it has about you. So, it's going to become, my point is, already has become way more important than it even was, because the search engines you could manipulate.
It's not Even reviews are critical, and obviously generating positive reviews more than negative is sort of like, that's your starting point. But it's even about how you tell the story of your product. And it's not just how you tell it, it's even how you make it accessible for the LLMs or the different robots to go ahead and scrape that data and learn about your product. For example, we've figured out a way to sort of transform user-generated reviews into Q&A. And Q&A is a very, very LLM-friendly format. If you can take all that review data and tell the customer, hey, here's a list of FAQs, you can go and publish those on your website, and that will increase your discoverability, that's a huge plus. So it's really about thinking about the entire experience, and not only how the end user will experience that, but how will the LLM and bot experience that when they're trying to scrape your data and learn about your product and what users love or don't love about it.
Yeah. So when somebody comes on board your product, I imagine there's this kind of life cycle of kind of use
Mm-hmm.
where you kind of have this kind of short term kind of let's kind of cream the the milk there and get the kind of low hanging fruit. We'll use all the terms today. But how do you get those initial gains? Where do those usually come into play? And then where do you see kind of medium and long term gains for, your average customer? And I know there's never an average customer, but what do you see kind of that kind of short, medium, and long term effect?
It's always interesting, when we do a demo for a customer, they always ask, hey, can I see my product? Can I see what the reviews are saying about that? And they usually pick their flagship or their top seller, or maybe a product that they know that it's really sinking and not performing well. And when I think about our customers, that's usually their initial maybe 3 to 4 months. They will focus on their top sellers. They will focus on the products that are moving the needle, and they'll sort of extract whatever meaningful insights they can from our platform to make sure that they're keeping those milking cows and capitalizing on whatever they can in those products. But then soon after, they start realizing that they can do this so easily that it's really easy to scale across their entire portfolio. So let's start looking at the middle of the pack, and let's start making gains and seeing where we can track those customers that we've been having for 2, 3, 4 years. We actually see them going through the whole cycle of using our platform to understand about innovation and launching new products, and then doing that whole cycle again and again and again. So it's really about getting that, those low-hanging fruits, focusing on my hero products, my top performers, then moving to the middle of the pack, and then going innovation and sort of, repeat and recycle that entire loop again.
You guys have kind of not switched gears, but you've really adapted well with this kind of AI model, right? You started with kind of aggregating all the data and, giving it to data analysts in a better way. And now you're really kind of democratizing all that data, which is so awesome with AI. I know along the way, though, there had to be, especially at VP of product level, there were a lot of hard topics and a lot of hard discussions you had with, hey guys, we got to do this, or hey team, we got to do this. Tell us a little bit about how that played out inside of your organization and kind of what it was like for you to go through that.
Yeah. So I think, saying that the past year has been a roller coaster would be would be an understatement. And again, for me and for the team as well, I have two senior PMs within the team, and I owe a lot to their extremely hard work over the past year to get us where we've been right now. Mm, I think it's been. First, it's been tremendously challenging, but also tremendously rewarding when you figure things out and when you see how quickly you can make progress. I think one of the things that we've really, really trying to we struggled with, and how do we make those trade-offs, and how do we make our product a bit different, is moving from a very, very text only answer and output and interface, and trying to throw that in with different visuals to make it a bit more engaging and a bit less boring. My CEO has this, when he sees too much text on the screen, when we go and, present like Figmas and demos, is like, no, I'm allergic to text. So how do you solve that allergy problem? And it's not always simple. Not first, because the chat doesn't always follow well instructions, and even if it does, transforming data into tables or graph or charts sounds easy, but it really is not easy. So I think that's been one of our main challenges. How do we make the engagement and the interaction and the experience not just, oh God, I got to read all this text again. I can't read this long answer. It's way too long. I got to, help me out. So that's been one of our challenges. I think the other challenge has always been, why are we better, or what makes us different than anybody in the organization going to ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity and getting an answer? And how do we prove that the fact that we have really unique data, and really unique data we've been working to clean and organize and enrich and so forth, how does that make the chat quality answers so much better and accurate for your organization than just going to OpenAI or to ChatGPT or to Gemini? And that's been a hard battle internally, always having that discussion with ourselves and challenging ourselves. Are we really better? And also with customers, trying to explain why it's better and how we do it so it's better. And that's been a challenge. And by the way, I don't think we've cleared that hurdle. I think we'll see a lot of those questions coming up in next year, and especially as organizations become more and more critical about where they spend and what they spend, we will be facing up with those questions time and time again. And we have a good answer, but it has to resonate as well. We have to make sure that our customers are aligned with that answer.
Well, and the AIs are constantly changing, right? Your product's constantly changing. The AIs are constantly changing. The data is constantly changing. So we don't have this static world anymore of, set it and forget it. And it's interesting because I think you're right. I think there's this, especially right now, there's almost this race to boutique or real specialized LLMs or AI agents, which I think makes sense. If we look at kind of our retail world, you have the Walmarts of the world that sell everything. And yes, you can go get a tennis racket there, but you're not going to win Wimbledon with the tennis racket that they sell at Walmart. You could, but you're not going to. So, we have specialties and we have specialty LLMs already. I was thinking that earlier today about a radiologist. We're not going to fire everybody comment reminded me about everybody thought radiology was going to be dead. Immediately dead with AI. And what's happened is there's actually more radiologists than ever because they can do more work and more people can get scans, and it's cheaper to do radiology now. So it's like a win-win-win for everybody. And so we're not going to be jamming people out of work. There will be a shift in work for sure. But it's really this, this interesting time when I think we do have these, very kind of narrow focused LLMs, and reviews is a great place to start.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think one of the things that we are really, it's probably our number one proprietary asset, and what the company has been working to build over the past 7 or 8 years is these what we call category context LLMs. So I'll give the example we always give. If you're talking about battery life and you're saying, hey, my battery life was 10 hours. If you're talking about a laptop, that's probably, average. If you're talking about a cell phone, that's probably not so great, 10-hour battery life. But if you're talking about a drone, that's like off the charts. Understanding the context of the category is really critical, especially when analyzing reviews and social content and understanding nuances. And we do believe that, when maybe to an average customer who might be looking for their next vacuum cleaner, if he spoke to our platform or ChatGPT, he would get a pretty average or pretty similar answer. And that for him, I would say what we call, the price of making a mistake and buying the wrong vacuum, or a vacuum that isn't that great, isn't that much. But for a brand who now needs to make that decision about investing in their next marketing campaign or spending millions of dollars in their next product line, the error rate or the risk of taking a wrong decision becomes so much higher. So the fact that they have to rely on really accurate data, they need to understand the reasoning. This is not just coming because the chat is biased or polluted with data from Reddit or whatever other forums. It's coming from real, what we call, grounded to actual reviews and customer purchase experience. That's where we believe that these specialized LLMs have a real differentiation and a real advantage over just the general LLMs.
What do you think most customers or most of your kind of CEOs, founders, people don't get about voice of the customer?
I think that they a lot of times they will downplay the fact that, hey, we just have a couple of hundred reviews. Those don't make a difference. And I think they downplay how people today are shopping and how much focus or how much more, I would say, prominent the reviews are today on the PDPs and in every customer experience that you can go and, just ask in any other forum and you'll get reviews. So I think that they are very, very, and that they're, downplaying it. And I also think we still find a lot of brands that are very, very, I would say, conservative in their way that they think. And they still, when you tell them voice of the customer, their first thought is, hey, let's do a survey. Now, again, surveys are great. Surveys are really, really, a century old, and there's a reason for that, because that's how you would approach people, and that was the only way to really understand them a while back. But we've evolved since, and I think that those brands are just, they're not getting it. They're not getting it, and they're not adapting to where we are today. And we're seeing it. Those brands ultimately they lose out.
Yeah, the surveys are almost a good pulse, like to see if your customer base is alive.
Yeah,
But we all know how we score those surveys. You get those at the end of a call or an end of a transaction, and it's
exactly.
unless you're mad. Unless you're mad. And so
Right.
they're generally very skewed, one way or the other, and there's not a whole lot of meat in them. So you're right. You got to go back to the real conversations and where those real conversations are.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you could leave one mindset kind of shift change that you had during this whole transition for the other teams out there, kind of looking at their portfolio and going, how am I integrating AI into this? What would you recommend to them?
Well, one thing is first and foremost, embrace AI. I think AI, especially, in my role, very, very technically savvy and dealing with engineering. It's all about embracing AI. It's knowing that because our ability to move so much faster is now open, then it allows us to fail much quicker and recuperate. And I think that's been our secret. We've taken a lot of bad decisions over the past year, but it's been very, very easy to turn things around and quickly remedy and mitigate because of the speed of our ability to really deliver new features and deliver new software. So I think it's embrace AI, embrace the speed, go with the flow, make mistakes, fix them quickly, and just, deliver awesome products.
Yeah. Well, Omar, this has been a great conversation. A really, really super interesting to hear you guys go through it. Great, interesting product too. I know, this is one I would have loved to have had about 20 years ago as I was struggling to deal with all of the different pain points and putting them into PowerPoint and presenting them. That's what we did back then. And so it's great to see that there's some automation and some real thinking behind it, and that you're out there helping brands. So really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much.